It's all about truth.
What's the future of journalism? It might not be a newspaper or a TV channel. Could it be a YouTuber? For centuries, journalists were the defenders of truth, holding power to account. But today, trust and influence wear a different face. Social video and influencers are rewriting the rules, and the institutions of old are struggling to keep up. Can traditional media survive? Or is the next generation already building something better? To find out, we spoke to those who are shaping the media landscape today.
That I don't read traditional news article. I mainly consume media through YouTube, mostly, and the main reason for that is that it's less polished. But there's also a charm to something being wrong. I'm trying to be a little bit more adventurous in the way you portray news and cover both multiple sides. For example, people, when they see different brands or traditional media, they don't think of it the same way, let's say, as my father does. For me, it might not be necessarily as positive as someone who is a YouTuber. And this is why when you say I'm trying to protect my brand, I understand, because maybe most of your paying subscribers are my dad's age.
Young generations, trust, shift.
Who do you trust more? Your family? A childhood friend? A stranger on the internet with millions of followers? At the TWIPE Digital Growth Summit, where media's brightest minds gathered, this question ignited a fiery debate. As journalism grapples with shrinking trust, influencers are rising as the new gatekeepers of information. Can legacy media reclaim its authority? Or is trust shifting for good? The battle for credibility is on, and it's reshaping who we believe and why.
On one hand, the younger users are saying that they just don't trust the legacy media, right? On the other hand, you have influencers with absolutely zero knowledge about what excuse my language, what the fuck they're talking about. And then they trust that.
It's all about trust.
Why do we trust certain people more than others? Stanford professor Mark Granovetter taught us that trust stems from the strength of our connections. How much time we spend, the emotions we share, and the mutual exchange of value. But today, in the media landscape, trust is evolving. It's not just about brands anymore, it's about individuals, personalities, faces, the people we feel, we know. From trusted TikTok creators to the power of recognizable voices in podcasts, media brands are learning this truth. To win trust, they need the right people in front of their audiences.
What I'm saying is that trust comes very much from individual relations, meaning that they actually trust persons, not only brands. Of course, I think it's an integrated relationship between brands and individuals, because the brand offers some kind of value to the individuals as well. But if you don't really recognize that as a news brand, you don't really recognize how important individuals are to your audiences. Because if you ask your audiences, they will quite often name specific individuals that they trust in your news products. And if you look at the terms that, for example, I mentioned our competitor in the audio market, Podimo. The way they have actually grown is by attracting the most famous audio names in Denmark and hiring them and giving them a revenue share. And it works tremendously for them. So of course we should learn from that, definitely.
We are looking into this. So one of our, the biggest Belgian newsmen, they had a TikTok personality, Jonas, and he has a lot of followers, and they had an open day the other day. And
Medias can learn from influencers.
Once dismissed as trivial, influencers now command audiences larger than entire nations' media outlets. They connect with followers on a deeply personal level, creating loyalty that legacy media struggles to replicate. How did these digital personalities outpace institutions built over centuries? And what can traditional outlets learn from the way influencers engage their audiences? The answer might lie in a shift from broadcasting to connecting, where personality drives trust And trust drives influence.
I think there's one thing which is what can mainstream media learn from the way in which they communicate, which goes back to the two-way communication, but it's also the use of personality. It's how you build that in a 360-degree way across multiple platforms, which they're really good at. People like who go to Crypt for it.
Hire them.
When you can't beat them, join them. Or better yet, lead them. What if the future of media isn't just working with influencers, but building them from within? The idea sounds simple. Combine the credibility of traditional outlets with the charisma of digital creators. But is it really that easy? How do you nurture talent without losing them to the platforms that made them famous in the first place?
I don't think it's going to be easy for big brands like all the media outlets in Europe to just go to one YouTuber or one influencer and say, put the check on desk and say, I'm going to buy you, you're going to be my next anchorman for the next 10 years, because he will lose the trust on his community. Then you might run into an issue if he becomes or she becomes too big. Finds another way to get more money, because we know they make much more money on YouTube than a standard journalists do on a newspaper, probably.
I'm in love with the cocoa. I'm in love with the cocoa.
Hiring influencers may seem like the perfect solution to reach vast audiences, but it comes with challenges that are often hidden beneath the glittering surface of followers and viral posts. One question looms large. How do you manage individuals who have built their careers on independence and personal brand power? These influencers are often celebrated for their strong personalities and unapologetic authenticity. But that very strength can also make them nearly impossible to control. Are they assets to a brand or liabilities waiting to implode?
I'm changing the world. I have more eyes on me than the president has on this country. The kids are listening to me. Andrew Tate invited me to Romania. I'm a chosen messenger.
And then also, coincidentally at the same time, was caught taking a picture with cocaine in her head. Great coincidence.
Managing them is a big problem. So we have some columnists in our newspapers who are very famous on social media, but they quarrel a lot on social media, and they don't behave themselves well, and then it reflects wrongly on the brand, you know. So it's authentic, so it's stronger, but it can also be harmful to your brand.
Never stop learning, because life never stops teaching.
Can the traditional journalist truly adapt to this hyper-visual, fast-paced, interconnected world of replies and video comment responses? Can someone trained to craft stories on the page learn to command the camera, captivate audiences, and go viral? Or does this evolution demand something greater, a fundamental transformation of the newsroom itself? A new kind of editor-in-chief. Not just a curator of stories, but a producer of personalities.
But the next step, I think, is to make the journalists themselves influencers. Now it's Jonas as a voice, but you have the specialists in your newsroom. But this is harder to do because, they're used to write stories. They are not video people and new to them, so they're a little bit shy. Editors-in-chief these days should organize it more and be more of an impresario or as a producer. Okay, you write, but now you have to say, can you present yourself?
We try to use the code of these platforms and to have young journalists that also embody the video, to meet the code, but to do what our job is, which is to provide generalist and fact-checking information.
It's all about standards.
In a world drowning in content, what truly sets a media company apart? As the digital tide reshapes how we consume and create, how do legacy media powerhouses like Le Monde hold on to these values? How do they protect their journalistic core while stepping boldly into new platforms and ways of working?
Yeah, it's all about not decreasing on our standard, and we will not negotiate on that. So that's why it's more about how we could transform our own journalists in people who can produce their content, expose themselves, and also hire new journalists. The younger ones are the more inclined to do that. We have a lot of strong and well-known journalists at the moment, but for many years ago, we did not expose them a lot. And for instance, you cannot subscribe or on alerts on a specific journalist. So now we embody more people.
Do they like it?
Yes, and it performs very well.
We saw the economist people. They're not even writing their name under the articles, very old-fashioned, but they're on video now. And I see some editors already hiring people from television and maybe not even sure about their right.
Where to start?
But what if the experiment begins somewhere unexpected? Somewhere vibrant, where creativity and personality take center stage. A place where influencers' voices shine, while publishers provide the framework to elevate them.
The other thing is, should we be co-opting influencers, which is much more difficult.
For all the reasons you say about control, editorial control, much easier in lifestyle areas. So, there's an Italian publisher which has had quite a lot of success by taking influencers who are really good in sort of science or food and creating this sort of vertical and then helping with the back-end marketing and monetization, but allowing them to be influencers, not try and impose editorial control.
At the end, it's all about money.
The largest challenge facing influencers today lies in the platforms they depend on and the economics they're trapped within. Platform revenues, quite simply, are not enough. On average, an influencer earns around $50,000 a year. Not nearly sufficient to sustain a business, let alone a career. They try to sell branded content, launch products, create courses, anything to monetize their following. But this raises a profound question. What kind of value could the media companies of tomorrow create in a world where pure factual information is commodity? What would make you, the audience, willing to pay? Or perhaps, should these efforts be supported in a different way? Paid, not by us, the consumers, but by the society they serve? Could the journalism of the future be funded by taxes? A recognition of the civic value they provide? We don't have the answers. Not yet. But one thing is certain, influence is not fading. Platforms are not going anywhere. Together they are destined to dominate the competition for our most finite resource, our brain time.
One part of the future of our community and adding this direct link with our readers, probably more than ever, because we are in a context where we will lose probably a lot of traffic from search engine, and so we need to cultivate our direct access with our reader, because we don't know how it will look like tomorrow in the next year.
I think the absolutely essential challenge is how do you still establish direct relationships with people? The big risk is that these companies are disintermediated by the big tech giants who have the first contact. And those who have the first contact are able to gather all that information, whether it's social media, whether it's ChatGPT, will gradually, of course, leverage that know-how. And then the question is, will media companies kind of be able to build their own direct lines, or will they just be doomed to be just content factories? Yeah. And if they're doomed to be content factories, Not good. Not good.
And that's all I have to say about that. I'm in love with the cocoa. I'm in love with the cocoa. I got it for the logo. I'm in love with the cocoa.